Hello, and welcome back to Coach Carlisle's Pursuit of Excellence podcast, highest level personal training for youth athletes and helping parents navigate youth athletics. This podcast is brought to you by Carlisle Performance Systems, located in San Jose, California. If you get an opportunity, please go over to iTunes and either subscribe, rate, share if you enjoy this podcast. I have a special athlete shout out to the one and only Kai, volleyball player. She's been training with us for the past 6 months. Her vertical jump has improved 6 inches and she is displaying it on the court. Thank you for sharing the videos of you just absolutely tearing up the field out in Vegas. She's a super hard worker and we want to give you a shout out and thank you. That we appreciate your effort and we appreciate everything that you bring to the table because you're the same person every day. Today's podcast focus is on the importance of routines. I can't state enough how important this topic is for young athletes. You see, when you have a routine, it helps you to focus on what's most important. Now, let me say this. You can have good routines and you can have bad routines. For example, a bad routine is you play video games every day. Every single day, you take meaningful time and you play video games for an extensive amount of time. That's a bad routine. A good routine is you get to bed on time and you do the little things to get to sleep so that you're well recovered and you're rested. As a parent of youth athletes, it's been one of our biggest struggles in raising our boys was to establish routines. And I'm very, very thankful to my wife that to facilitate that process, she would take away the phones at a certain time. 9 o'clock, she would take away the phones. Guess what? She was establishing a routine. Done. No internet, no texting, no Snapchat, none of that stuff. The focus was on going to bed so that you could get optimal rest, so that you could perform in the classroom and perform on the practice field or in your competition the following day. Routines are very, very important. Previously, I served as the director of sports performance at Purdue University. And every year, our entire team who supported the student athletes, so our doctor, our director of sports medicine, who was an athletic trainer, myself, sports nutrition, sports psych, our leadership coordinator, we would get together and we would try to figure out what the central focus should be for the upcoming year to help our athletes maximize their athletic performance. And after acquiring information from them and our observations day in and day out, being strength and conditioning professionals, you're with your student athletes or you're with these student athletes more than anybody else, unless they're hurt, of course, then they're going to spend a lot of time with the trainer. And that's something that we want to stay away from. We surmised that the biggest challenge was lifestyle. And it was our charge to establish and help them to adopt routines, positive routines. Now, why is that such an important topic and what does that look like? It's such an important topic because for me, I've been the beneficiary of having worked with the elite of the elite athletes and then college, high school, youth athletes in the private sector. And although I'm not in their home, those private ones, I did work at the Lawrenceville School for 5 years in Princeton, New Jersey, as the director of strength and conditioning. And part of what we did there was we had to basically be integrated into all aspects of campus life. It's a boarding school, so kids were away from home. Many of them hadn't been away from home for that extended period of time, particularly when they entered as a 9th grader. They were 13, 14 years old, and we had to help them establish routines. It was so important and vital to their success given that the academic environment was incredibly demanding, they had to play a sport, and then we also encouraged them to get involved in community-based activities. So therefore, we had to show them and help them to establish routines. And again, this goes across the board. No matter what level you are, it's very important to establish these things. So let's talk about the 5 key aspects of what I consider to be good routines, good areas of focus to establish routine. If you hit these 5, I believe your performance will significantly increase. All right. First one, sleep. I think our youth are challenged, hyper challenged with lack of sleep. Why do I say that? Because they have so many ways to communicate with their peers. The Snapchat is the biggest. That's their biggest source of social media. And probably second is Instagram. They don't do Facebook. That's for old people like us. Twitter, they'll do Twitter if they want to get some messages out to the coaches about some of their performance levels. They know the coaches are going to look at Twitter. Video games, look at the games like Apex. The list goes on of all the games, Fortnite, that the kids play, and they're playing against each other. Well, they have the capacity to play anytime they want. If they have their phone near them, or if they have access to the internet to play against their friends, and they can partner on teams and so forth. Well, all those things detract away from them establishing a routine. We don't want that to be their routine, because sleep, particularly for the growing athlete, is so important to their performance. It's so important to recovery. It's so important to their cognitive ability. It's so important to their energy level. It's so important to performance. Sleep is paramount. How much sleep do you need? 8 to 10 hours at that age. Does a nap count? Yeah, but not an extensive nap according to research. Back in 2008, I had the privilege to work with Dr. Sherry Ma. She's a pioneer in the area of sleep study. She actually conducted a sleep study for the Stanford athletes about in 2007, 2008. And they physically tested those athletes almost every week. They had 2 groups, one who got 8 to 10 and the other who just did their thing, and they ended up averaging like 6 hours of sleep. Guess who performed better in those athletic fitness tests? And they were tested every single week in the 40-yard dash, broad jump, various athletic fitness tests. Naturally, the one who got more sleep. They charted their academic performance. The ones who got more sleep performed better. Sherry and I actually helped to revamp the way the 49ers structured their practices at the time to allow players to get more sleep, because her research surmised that performance level goes way up when you get sleep. There's a lot more research out there. I encourage you to Google the importance of sleep, and we want to make sure that we're doing the things that detract away from them being distracted late into the evening that competes with their sleep. Second thing, school. It's very important that the kids establish great habits as it relates to when to do their schoolwork. And I'll tell you, my wife did a great job with our boys being homeschooled and all, particularly the youngest was homeschooled from K through 12. Never had to ask them, did you do your homework? You do your homework? You do your homework? No, I didn't have to do that. Thank goodness. Well, I'm sure many of you don't. But when they don't have good habits around managing their study time, managing completing their assignments, managing that whole process, then something else is going to get affected. I know back in the day, I was a king of procrastination coming up. I didn't have good I didn't have a routine. My routine was when I get 24 hours from when it's assignments due, that's when I'm going to knock it out. Pull an all-nighter. You know the drill. So we want to make sure if we get our kids on a routine to get their schoolwork done, then they can manage things and they stay on top of it. They're more proactive than reactive, and their sleep doesn't get affected. Third thing, their nutrition. Getting them to establish great habits around what to eat and when to eat it. Very, very, very important, because again, these things aid their cognitive ability. They aid their performance on the field. They aid their energy level. They aid their vitality. It's so important. When you look at nutrition, it is a foundation for performance. One thing that will remain true till the end of time is you can't out-train poor nutrition. Now, when you're younger, you might be able to get away with it when you're just so gifted, and we know those super gifted athletes, right? They can go to Mickey D's, eat all kind of junk, and then go out there and do what they got to do. But ultimately, that catches up to them. It does. I've seen it. A guy by the name of Frank Gore, he's still in the National Football League. This is his 15th year. He is a shoe-in for the Hall of Fame. Played for the 49ers for 10 seasons. And this guy is still going at a position that most don't make it 6 to 7 years. When Frank came into the league, he was eating everything, and he was a little chunky. Frank, I hope you're not listening to this, but you know I'm telling the truth. And we cleaned up his nutrition. And got him to get on a routine in terms of when he was eating. Like a lot of athletes, if they stay up late, they don't eat breakfast. They violate the very nature of what breakfast means, and that is break fast when they don't eat it. And it's one of the most important meals of the day. When they sleep in late, they miss that. And you want to talk about issues that pop up, whether someone's trying to gain weight, then they've skipped a meal, and they've skipped their snack after breakfast and so forth, and just throws them off kilter. So when you look at what should a sound nutrition plan look like for it to be a routine, breakfast, snack, lunch, snack, dinner, and possibly a light snack, depending on what sport the athlete plays, depending on what their weight is and where they're trying to be. But establishing proper nutrition strategies daily is key, in addition to establishing proper nutrition strategies before competition, during, and after. I'll tell you, one of the things that amazes me the most is when you see athletes cramp up during athletic competitions. Most of the time, that's a lack of sodium, which is reflective or indicative of a hydration issue. Dehydrated. And bam, his muscles just start tightening up, and next thing you know, it looks like somebody's over there just having a hard time. That could be prevented if we're hydrating. If drinking water, having 4 to 6, 8 ounces of glasses of water, I mean, that's at a minimum a day. That becomes a routine. All good. And by the way, I'm going to give you a freebie here. Great product. If you've had athletes have had issues with cramping, it's called The Right Stuff. You can get it off of Amazon. Great product. I've given it to some of my clients, or recommended it to them, cleared up their issues, and it's a good, sound product. So nutrition. 4 is a preparation. Boy, I'll tell you, establishing a routine. I had this athlete I trained. Her name was Kelly Smith. She was playing during the Mia Hamm era, just retired at 37, 38 years old a couple years ago, played at Seton Hall. Kelly was one of the most ferocious and talented individuals I've ever had the privilege of working with. A magician with the ball. Magician. And when and we trained. I trained her privately. I trained the team back in the day. This is after 1999 when we won our first World Cup. Yay! U.S. women are killing it. They started a professional soccer league. So I was training her team, and then I trained her privately. And every day she would start off our session with dribbling, before she would allow me to take her through her active dynamic warm-up. She would dribble. She would just take her soccer ball, and she'd take 15 minutes. She's like, no, coach, I got to touch my soccer ball. I got to touch my soccer ball before we start a session. And it was amazing to watch. Well, Kelly was one of the most gifted strikers in the history of women's soccer. Rightfully so, because it was a routine. It was embedded in her DNA that these were the skills that she was going to work on a daily basis. What is your athlete doing preparation-wise? What is their routine that helps to feed their skill set? Are they doing the little things that's going to create great change, beneficial change? I think preparation is one of the most important aspects in having a routine in terms of how you prepare for not only competition, but practice. Jim Harbaugh, who was the 49ers coach, he's now at University of Michigan, but when he was at the 49ers, he coined the term, and he might have got it from someone else, win the day. And his whole focus for the team was on winning that day, being in the moment, right here, right now. That's part of a routine. You see, it helps you to focus and helps you to be able to lock in on the things that are most important when you've identified what it is that you need to work on, and then you have incorporated that into a routine. And lastly, what is your competitive routine? Prior to competition, what do you do? I had the opportunity to be in professional baseball locker rooms before a game. I worked for the Devil Rays, or college locker rooms, NFL. I work with the NFL officials, so I'm in the locker room with them before the game. And it's amazing to see different people's competitive routines. And I don't think there's a one size fits all. I think that everybody's different. That's one of the things I've noticed, is everyone has their own way of getting ready for their competition. The question is, do you have a way, or is it haphazard? Here are the things that I've noticed that the great ones do to get ready for competition, regardless of the level that I've observed them at. First things first, there is a intentional focus that comes upon them. You see it in their eyes. They're locked and loaded. Doesn't mean they're not loose, but there's a focus. There's an intentional focus. If you watch a football game, go to a football game, a basketball game, NBA game, and you get there early enough, watch their routine. Watch your favorite player go through their routine. Watch Steph Curry. He puts up 200 to 300 shots before a game to dial in his shooting technique before the game. Go on an NFL football field and watch how the football players prepare. It looks like a track meet. Not all of them do it in terms of going outside and doing the active dynamic warm-up. They look like they're warming up for the NFL Combine when you watch it. That's a routine. And they start to lock it in. Right from the beginning of the game, you can see that there's a serious focus around their mental preparation to get ready for a game. They start to go to that place. What is that place? That's their place where they begin to withdraw within and start to visualize how they want to compete. They start to see themselves in the game. They start to play the game out in their head. They start to create scenarios in their head. I can't help, being the coach that I am, to ask many of my players, both male and female, like, what are the things that you got? What are you doing? What are you locked in on? There's a difference, I believe, between superstition and routines, right? Superstition is I got to have my sock a certain way. Like, that kind of gets a little different. But a routine, a focused routine, a maniacal routine is one that it gets them so locked in to the cause, right? And it's not just about them. It's about, how can I get into a place so that I can make the best and highest contribution to my team and help bring others along with me. It's a different focus, right? You see them walk around the locker room and they're high-fiving people and they're getting people going and they're like, hey, look, we got to get this done. So I think that when you look at 5 things that you can do, that'll be huge in helping you to establish a routine. 1, get sleep. 2, stay on top of your schoolwork. Have a routine for when you get your schoolwork done. Prioritize around getting your schoolwork done. Dial in your sports nutrition. Remember, you can't out-train poor nutrition. Preparation, whether it be practice, whether it be competition. Create a routine that will breed success on the playing field, whether that's visualization techniques, whether that is a routine of, hey, when I come out, I start with warming up. Then I move on to stretching, and then I move on to my skills. Then I move on to just kind of sitting back and reflecting on how I'm going to play the game, but developing a routine that's going to breed success. It's been one of my favorite topics because with all the years I've been coaching and seeing all the athletes I've worked with and seeing the different routines, I know that some are better than others, but more importantly, there's good routines and there's bad. And I hope that these 5 have given you the good routines. We're going to shift gears as we close here. I want to talk to you a little bit about the Back to School Routine Challenge. The goal here is to create a schedule with a checklist. Well, those 5 key components that I mentioned: sleep, school, nutrition, preparation, competition. And for 30 days, I want to see you check the boxes. Check the boxes daily once you've completed those tasks. That's the challenge that I issue to you. Did I get my 8 hours of sleep? Did I prioritize my schoolwork? Am I eating well and healthy? How's my preparation? And then, how am I competing? What is my routine? Creating my competitive routine before both practice and competition. I also want to give a shout out to our app leader, Nicholas. Nicholas is one of my adult fitness clients. He logs into the app every single workout, both at my training facility and at his home. You can use the app wherever you are. And Nick has amassed some serious points. Nick pushed 1,200 points last week. I mean, way to go, Nick. Give you a shout. If you guys would like to download the app, just go to Lightning Fast, LIGHTNING, it's a space, fast, and, so it's that and symbol, Carlisle Performance. You'll see that in the Google Play or iTunes App Store. Lastly, I just want to remind you to subscribe and check out Carlisle Performance at coachcarlisle.com. I'm also located on Instagram at Coach Dwayne Carlisle. I'm more active on Instagram and Facebook than anything. Twitter, it's okay. But I love to hear from you all. If there's topics that you have for me, you'd like to discuss, by all means, please shoot them my way. In the meantime and between time, have a great day.